Hello and welcome to the Unwanted Opinion podcast, the show in which me and my friends give our unwanted opinion on all things film. My name is Lewis and I'm joined today here with Kyle.
Afternoon, evening, morning,
Afternoon. I see
whatever.
you weren't ready for my intro. I saw you just like turning, taking a sip of
I
your
do.
what was it,
It's
San
just seen.
Pellegrino
It's
there.
no.
Hmm.
But it's just as much as we're gonna read it. I was like, oh my throat's a bit dry. I was like, let's just
Hmm.
because in the cinema my coffee. I only had a flat white, so I was just the
Yeah.
popcorn was getting quite dry in my mouth, and I honestly haven't drank since. So I was quickly just, you know,
Yeah, refreshing
sorry.
yourself, to talk a lot about today's episode, which is Furiosa. Me and Kyle are here to do a full review, spoiler-free review, I guess, if you've seen Fury Road,
Yeah.
I guess you'll kind of know what's going to happen. But yes, a spoiler-free review for George Miller's latest in the Mad Max franchise, Furiosa. Plus, Kyle has a review for John Krasinski's If as well, after we finish with Furiosa, which we'll jump right into. We are just really back from the cinema, what, like an hour ago there, Kyle?
I think we literally left the cinema about 50 minutes ago. So
Yeah. So we were literally fresh off this, a really hot off the press review. So, yes, Furiosa was written and directed by George Miller as well as Nick Latharus and stars Anya Taylor-Joy, Chris Hemsworth, Tom Burke, and Alila Brown as a younger Furiosa. So, if you've seen Mad Max Fury Road, which came out in 2015, which I'm sure a lot of you have, iconic action film of the 21st century, and obviously the one that kind of brought Mad Max to the 21st century, the one that brought it to a younger audience as well. If you've seen that, the major character in that was Furiosa, sort of a big fan favorite from that film, and kind of the lead character of that story,
yeah,
played there by Charlize Theron. This is now a prequel to that film, which takes its place goes 16 years of Furiosa's life before Fury Road takes place, and Anya Taylor-Joy and Alali Brown play both versions of Furiosa in this film. So the film begins with Furiosa in her very abundant green land, as they call it in the film, where fruits growing, it's green. There's wind turbines, there's water. It's a haven away from the wasteland, like we know and have seen in all these Mad Max films. Of course, things go wrong. She gets kidnapped, and of course is kind of chased after by her family, and things take a turn for the worst, and then she's sort of abducted by Dr. Dementis, who's Chris Hemsworth here, and his biker gang. And from there, the film is split into about 6 different chapters, and we go through this entire odyssey throughout the wasteland, different settlements and fortresses, and sort of her entire tale of revenge against Dr. Dementis. So, Kyle, what did you think of Furiosa?
well, I have to admit, I was gonna ask you this. That's just a question I
Uh-huh.
forgot to ask you as I came at the cinema. Was Three
Okay.
Thousand Years of Longing done in chapters as well? Because I feel like it was.
Yes, it was. I think so. That was George
Right.
Miller's previous film before
Because
he made
I
this
think
one. Yeah.
when I first saw the
Hmm.
chapters, I was like, oh, he's brought something over. He's brought something
Brought
over.
something over from. It's actually, I would say it's actually kind of more in style to that. Like it's kind of a blend of Fury Road and 3,000 Years of Longing, even like visually speaking, and the way it's sort of paced is very different to Fury Road. Anyway, carry on.
Yeah. So
Hmm.
yeah, no. So obviously, like I said,
Hmm.
Furiosa, Anya Taylor-Joy, and Alia Brown. Is that it?
Hmm. Lila,
I thought
Lila
she,
Brown, I think.
Alia Brown. I
Yeah.
thought she did a fantastic job as
Yeah.
young Furiosa. I thought she
Hmm.
was incredible. And
Hmm.
yeah, this film is very much a bit. I'm gonna say it's a bit slower than the Fury
Hmm.
Road. It
It's
definitely kind of.
yeah, it's a very different film. Yeah.
It's a very different film. It kind of
Hmm.
gives you a lot more time to kind of settle with the characters,
Hmm.
especially Doctor Dementis.
Hmm.
I forgot he's called Doctor. I just get Dementis was always just
Yeah,
such
he's
a
demented, so he
large.
changes it up all the time. Yeah.
I think at some point
Hmm.
he's like, I'm Emperor Dementis. Chris
Hmm.
Hemsworth, I just loved in this. I
Hmm.
thought he was having the time of his life playing this just mental Australian villain. Um, and yeah, I really kind of enjoyed going back into this world.
Yeah, me too. Me
I
too.
properly only watched Mad Max for the first time on Tuesday, Fury Road, sorry to be precise,
Hmm.
and I loved the idea you're just dropped into this world, not being
Hmm.
told anything, and you have to kind of figure out, okay, right, there's this guy and he has like these Half Life people, they're
Yeah,
all
because of the
like
nuclear war and stuff. Yeah.
a cult to them,
Hmm.
and I'm like, oh right, okay, that's kind of cool, and then this film just builds on that, and it kind of gives you even more
Hmm.
info, and what I love about this film that I think it does, which is weird for Fury Road, is
Hmm.
it paints Immortal Joe and the guys at Gas Town and Bullet Farm
Hmm.
as
Hmm.
actually not I'm not saying heroes, but they're
Mhm.
keeping the economy of the wasteland going.
Yes, and I found that I liked what they kind
Mm-hmm.
of did, especially with the Morton Joe, is that he's not just some insane maniacal villain and tyrant. He has smarts. He's having to
Mm-hmm.
be be have tacticians and like really
Yeah.
figure things out and what's the best strategy here. And he actually kind of has a bit more sympathy in this film. Obviously, well, I won't spoil it here, but it's interesting. He's painted. He's got a very different light on him this time. He's not a
But he's
savage
obviously still in that
as
same
such.
costume,
Yeah,
which is the
yeah,
funny
yeah.
thing. I'm like sitting there going like, you look
Mhm,
ridiculous, but you're somehow
mhm,
speaking sense
yeah.
occasionally.
Played this time by Lackey Hume, who didn't play him in Fury Road because he passed away. But yeah, you were saying.
But yeah, and I have to say the action in this, like what we're talking about, is also again different to Fury Road in the
Mhm,
sense that
mhm,
instead of the kind of one continuous action set we had with Fury Road, we do have
mhm,
more kind of traditional, different
mhm.
set pieces, and
Yeah.
there are some of them that are just so creative with
Mhm,
the introduction of the Mantis's bike crew, because
mhm.
that's more what
Yeah.
his kind of faction is. They're the
Mhm.
bikers compared to,
Like yeah.
um, you know,
All the big
Tom
trucks and
Hardy. A wee
cars
Tom
and
Hardy
yeah.
crossover that could have been
Mhm.
happening. Who knows?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
whenever he comes out of that film. And yeah,
Mhm,
I really love the action with this. Anya Taylor-Joy does a really fantastic job because once again, very much like how Mad Max was in Fury Road, she doesn't have many
mhm.
lines,
No,
and
she
there's
has
so
30 lines
much.
in this film.
Yeah, and it's incredible. And there's
Mm.
so much like facial expressions and just kind of sharp looks and
Mhm.
just amazing kind of cinematography. I mean, there's a one scene where I don't know why it's just she goes into reverse, and I think it's in the trailer. And she flips around, and because of the way
Mhm.
the paint's on her,
The
and it's just
gates, yeah, it's
so
great.
it's just so like
Mhm.
bang in your face. I love it.
Yeah.
And
Uh,
yeah, I do think it's a fantastic action film, and it really is like a
mhm.
cinema film, which is
Mhm.
something that
Yeah,
we're
absolutely. It's
saying.
absolutely a cinema film. Yeah.
And you know what, Anya Taylor Joy in the desert. It's If I had a nickel for every time I saw that this year, I'd had two nickels. Uh, which
Yeah,
is
true,
weird. It's
true.
happened twice, but yeah, no, I really
Yeah,
enjoyed it. It's definitely a
yeah.
different film from Fury Road, um,
Mhm.
but altogether a great
Yeah.
film.
And I think George Miller obviously knew that you couldn't just do Fury Road again because, look, Fury Road to me is one of the best films of the 21st century, one of the best action films ever made. It's just everything about it. The editing it's like one of the best edited films I've ever seen. It's got this fantastic rhythm, it's vibrant and colorful, and it's just incredible spectacle. He obviously couldn't just do that again because everyone would
Yeah,
just be like, "Oh, just why isn't this isn't as good as Fury Road? Just doing another big chase scene. That's lazy." No, it's an entire long 16-year story about this woman's tale of revenge. And like you're saying, the action, there is a lot of action, but there's like
yeah,
one per chapter, one set piece per chapter sort of thing,
yeah.
which you're kind
No,
of
I
getting
didn't
here.
actually really
Uh,
think about that. Yeah, that's true.
yeah,
It
I mean,
really
that
is.
I just kind of clocked onto that there. That was kind of how it was paced, as like one
Yeah,
per era of her life, I guess. Um, like you're saying, Alila Brown is in this film. The young child Furious is in this more than
yeah,
you think, and
yes,
she
yeah.
the casting in that is insane because she looks so much like
Mate,
Anya Taylor Joy.
there's a
It's so weird.
I'm not going to do the spoil, but they do a
Mhm,
kind of transition from the old to the
mhm.
young, and I wasn't
Yeah,
convinced it happened because
yeah.
at a certain
Uh-huh.
point when they're covered, they look
Mhm,
identical. They have the same
mhm,
eyes. So
mhm,
I think it's between a certain chapters
mhm.
they do the time jump, and I
Yeah.
was looking, I was like, is
You're just
that
like, wait,
Anya?
is
I was
that?
like,
Yeah,
is it?
I was doing the same
I
thing.
couldn't tell,
Yeah.
and I think that's a
Mhm.
fantastic
Yeah.
credit to the casting department there because I was
Uh-huh.
like, that's really great, and
Mhm.
especially her mother as
Yeah.
well. I thought, just kind of given the like language, I was like, yeah, I could see
Mhm.
that being like a young Anya Taylor Joy's mother. I thought just
Yeah.
yeah, perfect, great job.
Perfect. Like you say, Anya Taylor-Joy, fantastic action lead. She feels like Charlize Theron. It feels like it's the same person. I think that's a really, really solid job, all through looks and you can sort of see where her rages come from and how she just sort of hates the world around her. I think that's great. Chris Hemsworth, one of my favorite Chris Hemsworth performances. He's just like you're saying, Kel.
Oh,
He's over the top. He's wearing a pirate vest. He's got this
he's wearing a
ridiculous nose and
parachute
his
on the
beard.
back of him as a
Yeah.
cape.
Yeah.
He
He's riding a
gets
motorbike chariot. It's so
Oh, the
ridiculous. I love it.
motorbike chariot! You were loving it. You were when
Yeah.
he first did that. You were
I was
giggling.
like,
I I love
I
the
was
fact
giggling to
that
myself. Yeah.
there's a certain point where when they kind of first meet Immortal Joe's character, they get kind of
Mm,
they find the flare gun. And they're like, "Oh, what's this?"
mm,
And he gets painted
yeah,
in red. So he then decides to
yeah,
use that as his kind of personal, like,
yeah,
as soon as he gets covered in
yeah,
red, he's like, "Oh, this is my character. This is who I am now."
yeah.
For a wee bit, and I'm
I
like, he
know.
is so
Mhm, yeah.
deranged. But
Uh-huh.
then also,
Um,
like we're saying, he's a bit, he bites off more than he can chew. That's what
yes,
I'll say
yes,
about
that's
that
his
character.
character. Yeah, he's the complete opposite to Mad Max and Furiosa in the sense that he talks a lot as well, and keeps rambling on.
Yeah,
Um, I also like you were saying with the action. I mean, I was saying this to you, Mad Max Fury Road. The way that's filmed is there's so many. It's like edited. It's proper like rhythmic, and it's like a big sort of mad orchestra where it's edited and like it builds on each
yeah,
edit and becomes faster and faster and more intense. This film is like. They take a different approach. It's longer shots this time. There's that great sort of one shot, like I was saying to you earlier, with that motorbike turning into the parachute thing, with the big truck. One of my favorite action
yeah.
set pieces in the film. Yeah, there's far less cuts in this. The camera lingers more, sort of to give it a bit more stylistic difference to Fury Road, I think. But yeah, a solid action. It was better than most action films you're going to get out here today. George
No,
Miller knows what he's
yeah,
doing.
no, definitely.
What I will say, and I think you agree with me, Kyle, is that I think some of the VFX work is not as strong as it was in Fury Road. And now
There was,
Fury
yeah,
Road has about over 2,000 visual effects shots, right? I know Fury Road gets praised for a lot of practical effects, but a lot of those cars weren't there, and a lot of the backgrounds were
hmm
green screen as well. Um, but that film looks, I think, just a little bit more convincing. I think there's some rougher green screen here in some areas.
I would say that, yeah,
Uh-huh.
for Furiosa, it's the background
Mm,
shots. There's a
yeah.
few of them. For me,
Mhm.
especially the earlier scenes, I was like,
Yeah, I
this
think
feels
it's more
a
the earlier
wee
parts of the
bit.
film.
Also, the dogs. That's all I'm gonna say.
The
Um,
dogs, I didn't notice the dogs.
See in the bit where it's like the spinning bikes, and he lets out the
Okay.
three
Oh, they
dogs.
were the
There's
CGI dog. Okay.
it's when they jump
Uh-huh.
out, and I'm like, oh, I'm like, there's like
Right.
two
Okay.
frames where I'm like, that's really just jarring. And I mean, it's not meant to be a
Okay.
focus on it, but for a film that's
Mhm.
got multi-million dollars, I'm like, just get a couple of dogs.
Mm.
How much do they cost?
They're real
But yeah,
most of the time.
but then that's the thing. It's like they're
Mm.
still flipping cars, and they're still like
Yeah.
making giant
Uh-huh.
explosions. So it's
Mhm.
not
And
it's
still
not bad.
absolutely.
It's That's what I'm saying.
And I
It's like
still
you compare it to many action films. It's just up there, so
it's on
high
a different
compared to all
level.
that.
And what I like as well about the film, I forgot to say about the way it sort of looks as well. Fury Road is like, because obviously when he made that film, he wanted to make it in black and white, and the studio was like, "No, you're not making it in black and white." He was like, "Fine, because I'm bitter and I'm going to be petty. I'm going to make it the most colorful film ever," and made it so vibrant and turned the saturation up. And I love that. That's such a beautiful, colorful film. Once again, there is a lot of high saturation here. It's very, very colorful, which I like because I complain about a lot of films being desaturated and
Yes.
losing its color. And this film is very colorful, which I like to see. I'll give it that too. But anything, Kel, I mean, you said as well. I think we both agree too that it is probably probably maybe a tad too long.
It
Uh
is a
huh.
tad too long, and I mean it is a two
Mm-hmm.
and a half hour film, and I
Yeah.
mean, like I said, I've seen
Mm-hmm.
films like 30 minutes longer and not
Mm-hmm.
feel as long as this, and that's the kind of
Mm-hmm.
weird thing sometimes with cinema. I
Mm-hmm.
think there could have been like maybe 10-15 minutes
Yeah, maybe 15
sliced
minutes
down.
here or there. Yeah, yeah. Uh huh.
Um,
I think so.
you definitely kind of it's hard for me to say where because I'm like
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where exactly would be kind of cut off. I could probably think of a couple of scenes that I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
say. Um,
Yeah.
but for the most of it, you know, I thought it was great.
Mm-hmm.
Not to spoil anything because obviously we know she has a robotic arm, but
Yeah.
the scene where her
Mm-hmm.
arm gets damaged, I gasped.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
that's nasty.
genu
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god! I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, you know that? Oh no, that
Yeah.
actually sent me. That genuinely
Yeah.
sent me. Um, but I thought that was a great kind of just classic. You have to get there sort of moment.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the kind of backstory that she has with the other kind of what they called
Well,
patrons.
yeah. Yeah, Patreon Jack. What you talking about, the Tom Burke character?
Yeah. I the
Yeah.
kind of because we kind of get hinted that she knew she had this kind of connection within
Mm-hmm.
Immortal Joe's kind of
Mm-hmm.
camp in Fury
Mm-hmm.
Road, and I really like kind of seeing that kind of the origins of that there,
Mm-hmm.
which I thought was really great.
Mhm.
and yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
she's a fantastic job. It does. I think it wraps up that kind of story to lead into Fury Road very
Yeah.
pretty well.
Yeah.
And it's hard to
Yeah.
say anything else because it's like, well, you know.
Yeah, I know. If you've seen Fury Road, you know where it's gonna go.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So what are you gonna give it then, Kyle? What score are you
I'm
gonna
gonna
give it?
I'm gonna give it a solid 8 out of 10. It
Hmm.
For me, I do prefer Fury Road, but like we say, there are
Yeah.
two different films.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
I think that is
Hmm.
something that you should probably go into the cinemas
Hmm.
knowing is that it is not a
Yeah.
rehash of Fury Road.
No, not at
It's
all.
still a fantastic action film and probably one of the best action
Hmm.
films you'll see, definitely of this decade.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, for me, Fury Road is just that wee bit better, but it is a
Yeah, absolutely.
really, really solid 8 out of 10 for
Mhm.
Furiosa.
Yeah, I'm I agree with you again this week, Kyle. I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. Really fantastic action film. Anya Taylor-Joy's Furiosa's up there with Charlize Theron as well. Loved Chris Hemsworth, the villain. Vibrant, weird, colorful, and I think as a prequel, feel they've this doesn't make any sense, or the world is more civilized. It now 10 out of 10, just a stronger 10 out of 10. It's a great double feature. It's a proper
Oh well,
Furiosa.
I'll ask you
Uh,
this: would you do
uh,
it as if you were to double feature this? Would you go
mm.
Furiosa Fury Road or Fury Road
Yeah,
Furiosa?
I think if you haven't seen Mad Max Fury Road, I would say great because now you can watch Furiosa and go straight into Fury Road and not know kind of how it goes down. I think that would be really really interesting for a lot of people who haven't seen that. But yeah, I agree, Kyle. 8 out of 10 for me. It's a solid film. So you're going to also review If John
Yeah,
Krasinski's If follows
I'm
now,
just
yeah?
gonna give it. Won't take too long, probably 5 minutes. So
Okay,
yeah,
no worries.
F directed by and written by John Krasinski, stars
Mhm.
Kayleigh Fleming, Ryan Reynolds, Phoebe Waller-Bridges, a bunch of voice actors. You've got Steve
Yeah,
Carell, Louis Gossett Jr. Too many, and some of them are a wee
too
bit
many
not
people.
not 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 spoilery, but like there
Oh,
are
right, okay.
some of them that I sat and I'm sitting there and I'm going, why do I know you? I can't place it. It's annoying because I'm like, sometimes with very famous actors, and some of these are, I would say, very famous actors, you're like, who are you? Who are you? It's in the
Yeah, you
back
just
of
can't
my
really
head,
concentrate because
and
you're
I and
constantly
I
thinking about it. Yeah.
and I can't place
Mm.
it. And one of them I did place, which was Sam Rockwell as one of them, and I was like, yes,
There you
Sam,
go.
I just love Sam. But yeah, so F follows Callie Fleming's B as she moves back to New York. So it kind of sets up that she had to spend a summer with her grandmother when she was really young, due to the fact that her mother was kind of going through cancer treatment. And
Okay.
basically then she returns 10, 15 years, 10 years later maybe, back to the grand's house to spend summer there
Hmm.
again. And in
Hmm.
this time period, she's a wee bit older, she's maybe about 13, and she's going through another kind of personal point in her life. And at that point, she kind of starts seeing imaginary friends, Fs,
Hmm.
not hers, but of others. And then she
Other
discovers
people's
that the
okay.
other people's Fs, so these
Hmm.
Fs are ones that their humans have forgotten about them, and they are left to wander the world alone. And if that they're completely forgotten about, then they will vanish. So the idea is that
Ooh.
their 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 human has kind of forgotten about them, has not seen them, but maybe kind of remembered that they had an if as a child, sort of vibe.
Okay, I
And
get you. Yeah.
these ifs are kind of wandering the streets of New York, and B can start to see them. And then she then discovers her upstairs neighbor, Cal, played by Ryan Reynolds,
Hmm.
is also seeing them and is talking to them. And Cal has taken upon himself to help these ifs find a new human. And it's
Okay.
almost
All
like a
right.
weird matchmaking service that they do. But that's the
Right.
synopsis, and that's
Okay.
what I'm going to kind of leave it with there, because
Hmm.
what you have here is, sure, it's not John Krasinski's strongest film, right? And yes, it's very different to his last two films, being A Quiet Place and A Quiet Place Part Two. Very
Yes.
different.
Yeah.
But it was weird because I didn't see any of the Metacritic scores. And I came out of this and I texted you, and I was like,
Mm.
that was really heartfelt, and I quite,
Mhm.
sure
Yeah.
it falls a wee bit on some stereotypes, but I don't think the Metacritic score does this justice, because the Metacritic score is
Right.
at forty
It's pretty
six.
harsh.
I think this is pretty harsh. I think this is, if you go into this as a pure children's film, I don't
Mhm.
think it's what it is on the tin. I think this is almost a bit of a
Right. Okay.
Pixar film, where I think this is actually a bit more aimed towards adults.
Towards
'Cause
adults. Okay.
I
Mm-hmm.
left this and I was like, I hope John Krasinski's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I feel
Mm-hmm.
there's
Well, he
maybe a
said
kind of,
he made this for his kids, though.
yeah, which is
So.
what I'm
Mm-hmm.
concerned about.
Yeah. Right.
I
Okay.
think I think he's made this for his kids because I think it's a very kind of like, I think this is a post-pandemic sort of thing where maybe a lot of children
Okay.
have lost a bit of their childhood due
Mm-hmm.
to the pandemic, and it's that kind of
Right.
fear of losing it out
Mm-hmm.
and what you do in life, because obviously B's kind of like a
Mm-hmm.
bit kind of traditional, like, Dad, I'm 12, I'm not like, this and
Right.
that, and
Mm-hmm.
she's wandering the streets of New York alone. I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't do
Mm-hmm.
that if I was 12, mate. Just calm
Yeah.
down. And but I have to say, the character designs for all the Fs are really great. I thought they were
Okay.
fantastic. I thought every one of them was
Mm-hmm.
very unique, fun, just ridiculous. There's some very kind of random magical moments that at the time you're kind of like, how's
Mm-hmm.
this, what's this? But I think everything kind of wraps
Mm-hmm.
up in the end in a nice little package. Um, I, there's a bit. I would say there's twists and turns. It's not that kind of film. But the kind of
Mm-hmm.
ending revelation, I sat there and I was actually kind of like, you know what, that is quite nice.
Okay.
And to experience, I don't want to spoil too much because I think the kind of personal
Mm-hmm.
story Bo is a wee bit. You have to kind of experience it
Mm-hmm.
there. But yeah, and I'm not gonna say too much because I genuinely think it's a nice heartfelt film. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think it deserves all the hate, but I don't think it is
Yeah.
a perfect children's film. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
don't think I would, like, if you say, oh, I got like a 2 or 3 year old, I was like, I don't know. Like, a Kung Fu Panda is more of a kids film than this is a kids film. You know,
Right. Okay.
there's not as
Uh-huh.
much. There's not as much, like I say, action adventure sort of scenes to
Mm-hmm.
this. While there's more of a lot of
Yeah.
kind of sitting, talking,
Mm-hmm.
emotionally hitting scenes, especially ones that
Right.
are maybe more aimed at the adults. And I
Mm-hmm.
mean, obviously, I saw this at midday on a Wednesday. There was about 4 people
Yeah.
in there, and I'm like,
Yeah.
there's no kids here, so that's all I'm saying.
There's no kids. Yeah.
Which is either a good or a bad sign. I
Is
can't
it?
say.
Is it rated U or is it rated
It
PG?
is a
Just out of
U.
here.
It's a U.
Is it U? Well, there you go.
Yeah.
The BBFC thinks it's
It
for
said
everyone.
it said some scary scenes, and unless
Mm.
I'm really hardcore, but I say there was no scary scenes in that. And I'm not saying I'm a hardcore human or anything.
Mm.
But yeah, it, it's a nice wee film. I can't say too much
Okay.
because obviously it's a bit too spoilery, and that's not what I'm here to do.
Yeah, fair enough.
But yeah, it's a nice. I'm gonna give it. It's a sweet 7 out of 10. I
Mm-hmm.
enjoyed it. It's not one that
Mm-hmm.
I think I would go back to, but maybe in like, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know, however many years, if I've got a kid of my own going for a hard time, I'll be like, here,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna. I don't want to talk to you about it. Watch this. That's a good parenting
Yeah.
tactic, isn't it?
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, if
Yeah.
7 out of 10.
I've heard from. Yeah. It's. I don't really know what the why is it critically so harsh? I've heard some critics say it's like emotionally manipulative. Do you feel? I mean, obviously you don't feel that way. It's. I'm
I
playing
would say
devil's
it's a
advocate here. I
minute.
have not seen the film, so.
The thing is, there's an aspect to it that's very spoilery that I don't know if I can
Okay.
go into, which I can
Right.
understand them saying it's
Right.
manipulative, but I think that they missed the point of what that manipulation was meant for.
Okay. Uh huh. You think? So you
Yes,
think
yes, there's
it's
manipulation, but the
all right. Okay.
manipulation sounds so bad. Yes, there was manipulation, but the manipulation I think was it served a purpose in the film,
Mhm. So you
which if
think
you
you think
realised it.
uh-huh.
Mhm.
Do you think it's genuine then? Do you think it's
I
it's
think it's
John?
genuine.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
I think it genuinely does
Mm-hmm.
it. Sure, it's a very different film from the last two films. I do think he's
Mm-hmm.
maybe stronger with his horror, John
Okay.
Krasinski. Not that I'm saying this is not bad, but
Mm-hmm.
Quiet Place and Quiet Place Part Two are incredible films.
Mm-hmm.
This one is a step down. It is a different genre.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
could maybe explain to you later off air of why it
Mm-hmm.
is manipulative in a certain sense, but I don't think it's manipulative in a bad way. And that sounds really weird as I'm saying it, but trust me.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Right. Well,
Right.
thank you very much, Kyle, for that and the Furiosa review as well.
You're welcome. Yeah, that's fine.
No, no worries, no worries. Yeah, that'll wrap up today's show. On next week's show, we're going to be keeping it Mad Max. We're going to be ranking all the films, and the franchise Gonzalo will be with us. Hopefully, he would have seen Furiosa in that time, and he can sit and we can talk about the entire Mad Max franchise thus far. We'll go more into each film, especially Fury Road as well, when we talk about those films there. Plus, we'll have a review for Richard Linklater and Glenn Powell's Hitman as well. which was a big thing at last year's film festivals, and now we're finally getting it in cinemas before it comes to Netflix. But look, we just gave our opinions on If and Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. But at the end of the day, those were our unwanted opinions. Thank you very much.